Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Laces Out podcast, our NFL podcast, and it's a kind of special one this week. It's the Thanksgiving episode of the Laces Out podcast. We get not extra football as such, we just get earlier football. Even here in the UK, we get the football earlier and more of it on a different day. Yeah. We're talking about week 12 and we're going into week 13. Previews, reviews, predictions, stats. There's even a quiz. See if you can get the answers to the quiz questions before they come up. And yeah. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. People, please, if you know somebody that likes the NFL, you're listening to this, you think, maybe they'd like it as well. They would. They absolutely would. Send it on to them. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces Out.
Recording is indeed in progress, ladies and gentlemen. That could only mean one thing. That's correct. We are back for the Week 12 roundup of the NFL season here on the Laces Out podcast, brought to you by the good folks at the CookieCast Podcast Network. For those of you joining us on YouTube, as per usual, you will see not just my happy smiling face, but the face of the CookieCast Podcast Network leader, Mr. Andrew Cook. How are we this week, sir?
Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot of talk of playoff football, which brings with it that sort of tingle of excitement and that hit of sadness. But a real mixed time of the year. Obviously, we've got Thanksgiving coming in hard this week, and that's the last thing before, the big day. So, obviously I'm referring to Black Friday. So, yeah, mixed. I had a win and a loss in fantasy football this week. My win was 99% not going to happen going into the last game. I can't say the same for the other one. That was kind of a done deal round about the draft, I'm pretty sure. As old second from the bottom is not making a comeback at this point.
Not to rub it in or wind you up in any way, but I do believe that on draft capability, I believe your team was ranked to finish top.
Yeah, that's because I drafted some absolute monsters who they got the call. They're like, okay, so he's drafted you, so you can have this season off. Saquon, you had an absolute monster season last season. But as we know, whenever you are drafted to Team Cook, it's what we like to refer to as the off season. Derek, sit down, my friend. You are not needed this season. Yeah. My team is where good players go to die, as we know. So, yeah.
You hate to see it. But we won't dwell on fantasy football. We'll just stick to the real thing. So, week 12 brought with it 14 games as the Broncos, Chargers, Dolphins, and Washington Commanders found themselves on the bye. So, which one of myself or Mr. Cook would get the advantage in the week-by-week standings? Well, we both started off the week very poorly, as we had the Buffalo Bills to beat the Houston Texans in the Thursday Night Football. That did not go the way we thought. We also both had the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Chicago Bears. That also did not go the way we thought it would. However, for one of us, those were the only two results we got incorrect. Sadly for one of us, the Raiders did not beat the Browns, and the Eagles did not beat the Cowboys. Which means that for this week, with 12 of 14 selections correct and getting the point for the week, it is this guy, Mr. Paul Williams. I got all of the other 12 selections correct. Mr. Cook was let down by those 4 teams we mentioned just there, the Eagles, the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Bills. Another week where, honestly, 10 out of 14 selections is pretty good going.
Just not as good as 12 out of 14. That's monumental.
Just not as good as 12, yeah, sadly. So that does mean that I get the point. That moves me to 7.5 points compared to Andy's 4.5 points through 12 weeks. And for the overall games, we've hit 178 games played so far. Of those 178, Andy has correctly predicted 120. I have correctly predicted 123. So, on an average of one more per week correct than Andrew to put me at 3 weeks ahead, 3 points ahead. I mean, it's still remarkably close, is all I'll say. And obviously, it only takes Andy to have a decent week and me to have an absolutely appalling week for him to jump right back ahead in the overall picks, as opposed to the individual weeks picks. So, that is the overall games. And side bet wise, Andy went into the week on 30 from a possible 44. I came into the week 34 from a possible 44. So I find myself 4 points ahead. Well, no matter what Andy did, I was always going to maintain that 4 point stance or that 4 point gap at least, as I had all 4 of my picks come in. I had the Seahawks to beat the Titans, the Ravens to beat the Jets, the Rams to beat the Buccaneers, and the Packers to beat the Vikings. So a clean sweep for me, 4 points there. That moved me to 38 from a possible 48. Would Mr. Cook be able to keep pace and keep that gap at 4? Well, he took the Bills to beat the Texans with his first overall pick. So that wasn't ideal. He did bring it back a little bit by having the Lions to beat the Giants, although he did need overtime to do it. He also did pick the Patriots to beat the Bengals, so gets the point there. Finished it off, sadly, by picking the Eagles to beat the Cowboys. So he only gets the 2 points this week, ladies and gentlemen, to move him to 32 from a possible 48 selections.
That's a tough swallow, is that? Wow.
It was a tough week. Tough week. So that gap for me moves to 6 points in the side bet. And just to finish off, at least this section, our bankers and outsiders picks, did they come good for us? Well, we started off not great, as sadly we had the Bills
for the
to beat the Texans. Bills just letting everyone down across the board. Let me just find where I put my bet. Just scroll past the multiple losers from the weekend's football that didn't come in. Yes, so we had the Buffalo Bills to beat the Houston Texans at 4-11. That didn't come in. The other banker that we picked was the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Indianapolis Colts at 1-2. And our outsiders, Andy had picked the Jets to beat the Baltimore Ravens at 6-1. That didn't come in. I picked the Falcons to beat the Saints at 11-10, which did come in. So sadly, no money yet again, but I'm sure we're getting closer, if nothing else, other than in spirit alone. So, with the big Thanksgiving week coming up, let's just pray that we manage to get something from the 16 games that are to go through.
The players they're all full of turkey.
Exactly.
They're struggling in the ways that we know.
That's what you've got to hope for. So that's week 12 from our perspective, done and dusted. But I know for a fact that the Stats Mistress has been off in the background, ferreting away to get us the most delicious, tasty stats for week 12. So I will throw you to Mr. Cook to give you his section of stats, and then we'll come back to me to give you mine.
Yes, indeed. Stats Mistress was on it this week. She shooed me out of the way as she had important business, stat-related business, and got after it. So, week 12 NFL stats, credit to Nate Davis of USA Today. I think, obviously, for us, the credit goes to the Stats Mistress for her delightful statage. Number one, and it starts with 1. Team is now officially eliminated from playoff contention. The New York Giants first to clinch that ignominious honor.
Ignominious.
Wow, there's a word for it. It is the earliest the Giants have been ousted from even the most remote relevance since 1976 season. I mean, you know, you got to celebrate those victories, I guess. Defending champions, Philadelphia Eagles surrendered a 21-0 lead Sunday in a 24-21 come from ahead loss to the hated Dallas Cowboys. I mean, wow. Dallas is back at 500. It's still in 10th place overall in the NFC. Prescott passed for 354 yards and 2 touchdowns on Sunday. He ran for another score and became Dallas's all-time passing leader with 34,378 career yards after overtaking Tony Romo. Yeah, I mean, as far as that stat's concerned, honestly, I'd happily see neither of those teams anywhere near the Super Bowl this season. I don't think we need to worry about the Cowboys in that respect, but yeah, I mean that's quite a telling game for me. More for the Eagles. Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown had a season-high 8 receptions Sunday and finished with 110 yards and the game's first touchdown. Good thing they made such a concerted effort to get him involved. Number 4, elsewhere, Philly running back Saquon Barkley rushed for a season-low 22 yards. I wonder what that could have been about. Maybe he got the call. He's on pace to rush 1,057 yards, nearly half his 2024 output of 2,005 yards. I wonder if you know which one he was on in 2024. Anyway. Number 5. Apparently not about the Cowboys or the Eagles. The Cleveland Browns sacked Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Geno Smith 10 times on Sunday. Cleveland's 3 touchdowns came courtesy of Sanders and 2 fellow rooks. He threw a 66-yard touchdown to Running back Dylan Sampson, who did most of the work on Sanders' first professional scoring strike. Running back Quinshon Judkins ran for the Browns on the 2 touchdowns in their 24-10 triumph. Yes, it was a monumental occasion. Sure. Finally, for me, with Sunday's win at Cincinnati, the New England Patriots moved their record to a league best 10-2, which also allowed them to assume first place in the AFC over the idle Denver Broncos. New England's win came at the expense of the snake-bit Cincinnati Bengals, who fell to 3-8, with quarterback Joe Burrow still not quite ready to return from his Week 2 turf toe injury. With Jamar Chase suspended and fellow wide receiver T. Higgins felled by a concussion, credit to the Stripes for nearly salvaging a win before succumbing 26-20. Obviously, there's a lot up in the air about the Bengals with, as we were saying, Joe Burrow is due to return, but returning to a little bit of a banged-up team. So we'll see what that brings. Over to you for more delicious stuff.
Yes, so to finish us off, as it were, we start with Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes led the defending AFC champs out of an 11-point fourth quarter deficit to overcome the Indianapolis Colts 23-20 in overtime and possibly salvaging KC's season. The Colts, meanwhile, have lost 2 of 3 and are slowly falling into the clutches of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans in the AFC South. Indy's top-ranked offense matched its season's low with 20 points in total and went 3-and-out on all 4 of its drives after the third quarter. The Detroit Lions rode Jahmyr Gibbs hard in order to avoid their first losing streak since 2022. The third-year back rushed for a career-best 219 yards and had a career-high 264 total yards from scrimmage and scored 3 times, including a 69-yard run in overtime as Detroit staved off the Giants 34-27. The Lions will be back on the field on Thursday, Thanksgiving afternoon, against the Green Bay Packers in the second portion of their season-long 3-game home stand. Detroit, which currently still sits outside of the NFC playoff field, despite a 7-4 record, needs to start stringing some wins together. Switching to the Packers running back Josh Jacobs hopes to suit up on Turkey Day to face the aforementioned Lions, but a knee injury sidelined him this past Sunday. So not to worry, Pack backup running back to Emmanuel Wilson rushed 28 times for 107 yards, topping any of Jacobs' single-game highs in 2025, whilst scoring twice as Green Bay dispatched the listing Minnesota Vikings 23-6. The second half summed up the Vikings' day and maybe season. 4 total yards and 3 total turnovers. 1 total shit quarterback, dare I suggest. That'd have been so much better if I could have gone 4 total yards, 3 total turnovers, 2 total something, 1 totally shit quarterback. Oh, perfect. Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba needed all of 11 games to rack up a league-leading 1,313 receiving yards, already a single-season record for Seattle. The Seahawks defense also dropped Tennessee Titans rookie quarterback Cam Ward 4 more times. The number 1 overall pick has now been sacked 45 times this season, by comfortably the most in the league. Yeah, that thing about Jackson Smith and Jigba is absolutely insane. That he's set a single season receiving record for the Seahawks, and there's still 6 games for him to get more.
insane.
He's going to set a bar that is, dare I suggest, unachievable for anyone who comes after
for a
him.
long time.
Oh, yes. Congratulations to Baltimore Ravens running back Derrick Henry. Can we not just call him Derrick Henry? Do we have to say what team he plays for?
I mean, I imagine most people would know.
Do you know what? Congratulations to former Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry, who moved from 15th to 12th place in the league's all-time rushing list on Sunday, when he ran for 64 yards and 2 scores in a win over the New York Jets. Now at 12,294 career rushing yards, Henry needs just 19 more to displace the legendary Jim Brown for the 11th spot of all time. Oh, that's going to go down well in Cleveland, that a guy from Baltimore only needs 20 more yards to be above Jim Brown, the best Cleveland Brown of all time. Of more importance, the Ravens dislodged the Aaron Rodgers-less Pittsburgh Steelers for first place in the AFC North by winning their 5th game in a row. The teams will meet for the first time this season in week 40. So not next week, but the week after. And the final stat of this week, with 3 games already gone into overtime in week 12. The final game, obviously at this point, that was the time that this stat was made, was not, though it had not been played. The Panthers 49ers did not go into overtime. With 3 games already gone into overtime in week 12 this season, there have been 47 games decided by a game-winning score in the final 2 minutes or in the overtime period, which is pretty crazy.
Would say that's a lot. Some people would say that is a lot. That's a lot of games that have gone that close right at the end. It's almost like this season, that seems to be like, I'm not sure theme's the right word. Like maybe there's been some sort of change behind the scenes. Like, I don't know what it could be. Like, I don't know. Like maybe just like as an example would be like a company who's paying for ad space for time for adverts would say, well, if the game doesn't go all the way to the end, people are going to turn it off. So we're paying you for ad space, and nobody's seeing our adverts because people are turning the TV off. Is there anything that you could do about that, Mr. NFL? Just pulling that one out. Is that week 12 kind of wrapped up?
That would indeed be week 12, neatly folded, placed inside a box, that box wrapped, that box ribboned, and that box placed on the shelf, tucked away nicely for the annals of time. Yes, week 12 done and dusted. We will move to week 13, but it's not just any old week 13. It is Thanksgiving week in the National Football League. So like Andy said, there'll be plenty of turkey talk. There'll be plenty of pumpkin pie talk. There'll be plenty of rivalries to be renewed. I've made my selections for the games. Mr. Cook has made his selections for the games. We will go through those once we come back from a very short commercial.
Yes,
commercial-free break.
This is one of those situations where obviously, technology is the way it is, and we have as I'm sure people are aware at this point in time, we have timed sessions of recording time, and we got through that fairly quickly. So it's almost like a situation where you think, man, I wish I had 130 questions based around the NFL that I could ask you a handful of right now and see on the fly, quick fire, how well you know.
Ooh.
The answer to this question: what is the only jersey number not permitted in the NFL?
100?
In a way, you're close, because if you remove one of the numbers, you'd have got it right.
Oh, so 00
is the correct answer. Another one, quick fire. What is the smallest city with an NFL team?
With maybe Jacksonville?
No, sir. You want another one?
How small is Vegas classed as?
I imagine over the area that it would be taken, Vegas would be considered to be quite large.
Right, okay. Just trying to think off the top of my head, like where's like a place that's not like a big. So it's obviously not going to be anything on. You would have thought it's not going to be anything on the west coast because they are all pretty large. You would have thought it probably won't be anything on the east coast because again they're all pretty large. Kansas City.
Afraid not. Take some cheese and pop it on your head, my friend.
Green Bay.
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Of course. Yeah, isn't there something crazy? Like, I don't know. I'd have to look up the actual stat for this, but I'm pretty sure it's something like of the population, it's a ridiculous percentage are all season ticket holders. It's like something like 70% of all people who live in the city are season ticket holders at Lambeau.
I saw a video for a Airbnb. It's literally here, and the stadium's in the background, and it's the Green Bay house, and it's monumental. All right, here's one for you. I'm picking and choosing as we go here. Who holds the record for most receiving yards after the age of 40?
I would presume it's still Jerry Rice.
Correct answer. And finally, who made NFL history as the first visiting quarterback to post a perfect passer rating?
First visiting quarterback, so I'm assuming before that it'd only ever been quarterbacks playing at home that had done it.
I will give you a clue.
Yes.
It might be a big clue, but it is a clue. They are still playing at this point in time. So it's not one from the past, it's a current quarterback.
Perfect passer rating as a road quarterback.
Rudo. I'm pretty sure we put it in the stats at the time.
I mean, he's probably going to have every other record when his career finishes. So let's just go for Mahomes. Stafford, still playing.
Still playing. Very much playing.
Still playing. Can you give me the division?
No.
Oh, I'll tell you what, give me the conference. Does he play for an AFC team or an NFC team?
You know I can't. You know how rubbish I am at which division they're in. Give me a second, I'll look it up.
If this turns out to be Kirk fucking Cousins,
no, I wouldn't do that to you.
Let me think. So perfect passer rating. So a player that's still playing now. I would imagine he's probably been playing for a fair amount of seasons. He's not like some guy who's just come into the league.
NFC South.
So technically, Kirk Cousins would be in play for that. So it's either Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix.
It is not Michael Penix.
Doesn't seem likely. Bryce Young or Andy Dalton. Baker Mayfield
is the correct answer. Baker Mayfield
really?
has a passer rating on the road.
Interesting. When did he set that?
I'd like to say, I know we covered it on the stats.
I think we've probably discussed this in the past. Like, it probably has to now go down as certainly the worst trade of all time by the Cleveland Browns to trade for Deshaun Watson, but just the sheer fact of that they got rid of Baker Mayfield when they did has to go down as one of the most boneheaded things that the Cleveland Browns have done.
Baker Mayfield achieved a perfect passer rating of 158.3 in a game on December 17th, 2023, against, ironically, the Green Bay Packers. He became the first visiting quarterback ever to post perfect passer rating at Lambeau Field. His stats for the game were 22 completions on 28 attempts for 381 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interception. I mean, just those stats alone.
Tasty.
What I will say there is, look out for more of our NFL, because of the 130 questions in that quiz, some of them are like, but quite a lot of them are really good questions. So, yes, I'm peppering the next few episodes with the older question here and there.
Very nice. One thing I will say on the flip side of that perfect passer rating thing, the ones that I always enjoy are the fact that they always flash up that if insert quarterback here, case in point will probably be like a Shedeur Sanders, where it's a guy who's like starting a game for the first time or coming in relief of another guy for the first time, and they flash up their stat line and they give out the stat that their passer rating is so low that technically they would have got a better passer rating if they'd have kneeled out every down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always enjoy stats like that just go to prove that this player is just dross across the board.
It's that thing, isn't it? Like the NFL is so insane on their stats, and I imagine, for better or worse, with the addition of AI at this point in time, they will have just machines that are just designed to generate the most insane stats. So yes, I'm sure we'll see some absolute corkers coming up over the next few seasons.
Indeed, we shall. So yes, week 12 done and dusted. Week 13, Thanksgiving week, just to go through now. So we will step away momentarily. When we come back, don't adjust your sets. I definitely am not wearing a completely different outfit to the one I'm currently wearing when we come back. For the eagle-eyed amongst you, if you do spot that, more power to you. I can't say that any sort of trickery of the camera has gone on at any point, but just keep your eyes peeled. And yeah, so we will be back very, very shortly. Don't go anywhere. Yes, that is correct. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So week 12, done and dusted. In the rearview mirror, we will move on to week 13.
Unlucky for some.
And it's unlucky for some, but it's not just any old week 13. It's Thanksgiving week 13 in the National Football League. So, of course, all that means is that 3 games come our way on Thanksgiving Thursday. Now, obviously, for those of you who are new to the podcast, the concept of Thanksgiving to non-Americans, because I do believe that Canadians also celebrate Thanksgiving, just at a different time. So don't really know how Canadian Thanksgiving works. Never really looked into that. But American Thanksgiving brings 3 games on Thanksgiving Thursday. And for the last couple of seasons, it has also brought a Black Friday game. So we'll add those 4 games to the other 12 games that will be taking place this week, which will give us week 13's full 16-game slate that myself and Mr. Cook have predicted in this here book. Yes, Mr. Cook.
For interest, Monday the 13th of October was Canadian Thanksgiving.
Oh, I see. Do they play an excessive amount of Canadian football?
I don't really know. I don't know what. I mean, what would they be celebrating? Why would it be different? What? Yes, I think it probably needs further investigation at another point in time. I'm intrigued. I'm actually intrigued by this.
We will leave that for another podcast, dare I say, and that could be my homework for this week. And when we come to next week and we're discussing the goings on in week 13, I will try and look into why Canadian Thanksgiving is different to American Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, what we'll do is we'll go through the games as we normally would. We'll go through the side bet. We'll go through our bankers and outsiders. And then to finish off, I imagine we'll discuss some food, some drinks, some tasty nibbles, etc., etc. So we'll dive straight in to the Thanksgiving feast that is the opening game, which sees the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. Of course, the Lions are the traditional opening game on Thanksgiving Thursday, and it has been that way for insert number here, number of years. I believe the phrase "time immemorial" would stand in good stead here. It's a divisional game. Those are always strange, as we discussed with the Eagles-Cowboys game from week 12. However, both myself and Mr. Cook have backed the Lions to get the win here.
You know something?
For me,
I had a weird feeling about this game that I thought at this moment in time you would be saying it is our first difference of opinion. Not super enamored with the Lions at the moment. I'm fearing what we like to refer in our house as classic Lions. So I did give them the win, but tentatively, I'm scared. A little scared.
Well, to say that they laboured to their win over the New York Giants would be an understatement. So you would imagine the Packers are a much more difficult opponent to be taken care of. And oh Christ, if I was to go back into last season's games, I believe there is a possibility they may have lost at home on Thanksgiving to the Green Bay Packers. No, they can't have done, as the Packers Lions was in week 14, and the Packers won. So that wasn't the case. It was Bears Lions, I want to say, and the Lions won. So it must have been the year before. But I do remember the Lions being favourite within the last couple of years, and they got turned over quite unceremoniously. No, excuse me. So both have gone with the Lions to win the first game. The second game of Thanksgiving Thursday, the traditional slot saved for the Cowboys to play at home, and they couldn't have been given a more difficult task on paper. Now, obviously, they're coming off the back of a tremendous win against their divisional rivals, the Eagles, but they will be playing against the Kansas City Chiefs in this one, and both myself and Mr. Cook have backed the Chiefs for the road victory. I think we covered in the first half the fact that the Chiefs were in a bit of a last chance saloon. They kind of needed to win over the Colts to keep themselves in with a shot of making the postseason. And obviously they did overcome that hurdle and got the win in overtime. I still think they're kind of in that regard of they can't really afford to lose.
So we kind of touched on this last week, but the Chiefs are in kind of they need to win every game. As it stands at this point in time, they are not in the playoffs. So they need to win every game and have some, I hate to say it this way, but some favourable losses for other teams because they're not in the playoff picture as it stands, which feels weird, but it is what it is. So yeah, they need it to go their way, and it was looking like it wasn't going to. So yeah.
But we have both backed them to bounce back. Yeah. Well, I say bounce back, not even bounce back because they won. But we've both backed them to continue their good form with a win in Dallas. The third and final game of Thanksgiving Thursday is the one that's always on the rotating basis. It's this one doesn't have a designated home team like the Lions and the Cowboys for the earlier two games. And this season, they have chosen a divisional matchup, and it is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. Now, there are talks that this may, in fact, be Joe Burrow's return.
Joey B. It is
to the starting lineup for the Cincinnati Bengals.
I believe it has been announced as official return. I think they have announced that he will be playing in this game.
Interesting. There is a possibility that both myself and Mr. Cook made this pick prior to that knowledge becoming the available, as we have both backed the Ravens. Now, the Ravens are at home, and it is Joe Burrow's first game back since week 2, week 3, maybe, if he does play. So I would still give the edge to the Ravens. But, like we've said before, divisional matchups do weird things to teams.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals rally and, get a result here. I think the issue the Bengals might have is that, obviously, Jamar Chase has had his one-game suspension played out now. He missed the game against the Patriots, so he is available to start again. T. Higgins, I believe, left the game with a concussion against the Patriots, potentially, so it'll be touch and go as to whether he cleared the concussion protocol and will be available to play on Thursday. We'll move on, though, and the Black Friday game this year sees the Chicago Bears travelling to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And even though the Bears are on great form, and the Eagles are coming off the back of a bad loss against the Cowboys, we have both backed the Eagles to bounce back with a win here. That's the Thanksgiving and Black Friday games done and dusted. So we move to the Sunday slate of games, and this is the remaining 12 up for grabs. So, Sunday, early window, sees the Los Angeles Rams at the Carolina Panthers. We've both backed the Rams. The San Francisco 49ers at the Cleveland Browns. We've both backed the 49ers. The Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts brings us our first difference of opinion of the season of the week. I have gone with the Texans. Andy has gone with the Colts. Now, my reason for picking the Texans in this one is, again, it's a divisional game, and you know what I always say, it does weird things to teams. I don't know how the Colts are going to react to that loss against the Chiefs. It's a big test for them. If they can beat the Texans, I'll start thinking that maybe they are the real deal, and maybe they can potentially go deep into the postseason. But until that point, I do think that the Colts might have just been a bit of a flash in the pan, and for one of another reason as well, a Texans win here does make that division a lot more wide open, as I believe the Jags are only one win behind the Colts, and I think the Texans are only one win behind the Jags. So this would close it right up again and make it so that all three teams are still in play to get into the postseason. So that's partly that might be a little bit of wishful thinking on my part, but it's where I'm hanging my hat. Let's put it that way.
Think saying that this team lost against the Chiefs is just one of those things. You would expect most teams should be facing that situation of losing to the Chiefs. The Chiefs have just been bad this season. The Colts losing to the Chiefs in some way feels like the balance right in itself. We've been looking at the Colts like, are they legit? Are they going to go the distance? Are they going to make it? Are they going to be one of the Super Bowl teams? Etc. 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 To lose to the Chiefs, I don't think puts too much of a chink in the armor. I think it's just a stumbling block. I would like to see them go and decimate in this game. I think that puts you back where you're supposed to be. That puts you back on track. That puts you back moving in the direction you were supposed to be going. A loss here, I think there are a few teams this season, the Lions being one, the Colts being another, the Broncos, that have had this kind of run of games, have been doing really well. And then every now and then there's a stumble, and you're just waiting. You're like, is this the week where we finally see them for what they always were or what they were always going to be? Or is it just a stumble? I did purposely leave a team out of that list because it's a little too painful to bring up. But there is another team that I hate to say are starting to show their usual colours. It's just unfortunate. But well, fingers crossed it won't go that way. Anyway.
We carry on. Still in the early window of games, we see the New Orleans Saints travelling to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Obviously, the Saints coming off the back of their loss against the Falcons, and the Dolphins coming off the back of their bye week. So we've both given the edge to the Dolphins. Strange week. It's strange on that because obviously the Dolphins, if they win, whilst I don't think it puts them back in contention, it means they're only a couple of games back, and they are still in with a chance of making the postseason. I don't think they will, but it still keeps them in the mix. Let's put it that way. We see the Falcons traveling to New York to take on the Jets, and it brings around our second difference of opinion of the week. Mr. Cook has gone with the Falcons. I think this is another one of those games that the Jets are going to look at as a chance to win. And because they're at home, I think they will take that chance. So I've got the Jets down to get the win against the Falcons. Mr. Cook disagrees. We have the Arizona Cardinals at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we've both gone with the Buccaneers. We'll have to wait and see if Baker Mayfield's injury that kept him out of the second half of the Bucs game against the Rams is anything super serious. But as it stands, the Buccaneers are a much better side than the Cardinals. So we have gone with the Bucks. The final of the early window games sees the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans. And surprise, surprise, we've both gone with the Jaguars to get the win against the 1-10 Tennessee Titans. The late slate of games sees 3 matchups. We have the Vikings at the Seattle Seahawks. We've both gone with the Seahawks. Oh dear, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. We've both gone with the Chargers. I dare say that is probably a double-digit point favourite for the Chargers. And the final game of the late window sees the Buffalo Bills travelling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. I believe Aaron Rodgers is slated to be back from his wrist injury that kept him out of their game against the Bears last week. We still don't think it's going to be enough. We have both backed the Bills to bounce back from their disappointing loss to the Texans by beating the Steelers. The Sunday night football sees the Broncos taking on the Commanders in Washington, D.C., not state. We've both gone with the Broncos, and the Monday night football sees the eliminated from postseason contention New York Giants taking on the very much not eliminated from postseason contention and current number 1 seeded AFC New England Patriots. And it's not our final difference of opinion game of the week. Surprise, surprise. We have both gone with the Patriots. So, 16 games in total. 16 sets of predictions made. Only 2 differences. One of us has gone with the Texans, one of us has gone with the Colts, one has gone with the Jets, one has gone with the Falcons. The rest we're all in agreement on. So we should, fingers crossed, get a decisive result through that. That means we can move to week 13's side bet. And obviously, as we covered from last week, Andy has fallen slightly behind, further behind, should I say, in the side bet. He has a possible 32 from 48 picks. I have 38 from a possible 48 picks correct. So it's up to Mr. Cook as to whether he wants to go first or if he wants to put me in to give him 2 back-to-back selections.
Well, I'm going to pose you a question whilst I mull my first pick.
Yo.
If, and it's looking likely, so this is why this has come up, and I am not responsible for this. I saw this on the Tinterwebs earlier. If the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers both go into the postseason, and end up in a championship game situation, where will they play? Because they both play in the same stadium. So, how's that one going to work? Because this is the first time in NFL history that this is potentially going to be a situation that they would have to deal with. Now, it is looking like both teams will go into the postseason, which increases their chances of having this being a problem. Now, bearing in mind, if one team has to move, because all of the media is set at this point, if one team has to move and play in a different stadium, they will technically lose home field advantage. The time and place of game cannot be changed because it's all locked in already. So how will they decide? Also, you can't have a situation where they go, you're going to play at 6 and you're going to play at 9 because of the field situation. They wouldn't be able to change the field quick enough. They wouldn't be able to get the fans in and out quick enough. It wouldn't work. So how are they going to do it? Because this is the first time, because there's never been a situation where the Giants and the Jets, for example, have had to deal with this. This is the first, and in true WWE sense, the first time ever this potential massive problem could come up.
It is an interesting one. I dare say that the more it sort of goes on, where this would become a possibility, the likelihood is that they reach out to a place like the LA Coliseum and say, can we just get that prepped for the eventuality that one of them has to play? Is there the option that they could use a sort of an unprecedented, we don't paint the end zone?
So that was a possibility that came up. They didn't paint it. They went with a generic field, but obviously, how that looks from a broadcast perspective, etc., is a bit naff, I suppose. For a championship game, you're going to not put the championship logos and things on the field and stuff, which obviously you can still do, but you're not going to have those. For all of history, those photographs will be missing those team names.
So one thing that I do think is up for debate is that I think it only comes into account if they both end up as the number one seed.
Yeah.
Whereas if, say, they were both like in as, say, the Rams going as the 2 and the Chargers going as, say, like the 4, that's fine because they both would still have the home game to sort out. So that's fine. That would still need to be sorted. But I think there is a potential that they could just rejig the order of the games. So say if it is that they're 2 and 4 or 2 and 3 or 3 and 3 or whatever, they might be able to do a slot, say, where the first, it would probably be that the first game of wildcard weekend that was scheduled for the Saturday evening would potentially go to whichever one is deemed the higher seed. And then the last slot, which is the Monday game, goes to the other, potentially.
Yeah.
So that gives them 48 hours to do the switch around of the field, which isn't unprecedented. We have had situations where both the Giants and Jets have played in back-to-back days at MetLife Stadium. So they have proved in the past that they can turn the field round in 24 hours. So it is possible.
In answer to your question, I think taking the Jacksonville Jaguars as my first pick feels strange. However, 1-10 Tennessee Titans. So I'll take the Jacksonville Jaguars to literally walk all over the Titans. Please?
Oh, those poor Titans.
Yeah.
I will do a similar thing, and as my first pick, I will take the Los Angeles Chargers, given that we're just discussing them.
You're a brave
I am, but I'm also seeing that they're playing against the Raiders, and the Raiders are an absolute abomination.
I fully agree. I looked at it and went, oh, hang on a minute. The Chargers have fucked me at every possible turn on this entire season. So I'm glad you've taken it.
I also did feel I was doing you a service by taking them off your hands.
I praise you.
That's fine. I don't need to put this action. I'm just a humble guy sitting here in a Hartlepool United shirt doing a podcast. That's all that needs to happen. I will follow up my pick of the Los Angeles Chargers with a team going up against another moribund franchise, and I will take the New England Patriots.
There was no way I was sneaking that one out from under you, but I did hope.
Over to you for your next 2 selections.
In that case, I will take the game before that in the Denver Broncos to beat the Washington Commanders. It's a risky pick. I am purely picking it on numbers, 9-2 versus 3-8. However, The Broncos are due a fall at some point. The Commanders could put a weird game together there and take a win. There is a game there I don't want to touch with anybody. Okay, give me my guys. I'll take the Seattle Seahawks to beat the Minnesota Vikings. I think I've already mentioned this to you, but I really struggled with picks this week. I felt that there was some clear standouts, and then there was some real dog games to pick. Like, for example, Eagles versus Bears. If you go by the numbers, they've got the same record. Yes, we're talking about the Eagles and the Bears, but the Bears have to be good enough to have won 8 games at this point in time. That defense is monstrous.
Which brings me to my next pick, and I think I will go with the San Francisco 49ers to beat the Cleveland Browns.
Wow.
And I might even double that up and take an NFC West doubler and go with the Los Angeles Rams to best Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So 49ers and Rams both in my selections as the side bets, which leaves us with you to finish us off for the week, so to speak.
It's just a lot of I don't trust you to get it done. The Bucks, obviously a situation that you could look at and say, I mean, it's kind of but there's that question mark over Baker really puts a dampener on that. I am going to pick something, and I'm going to say this here and now. I have no faith in this pick because the team I'm going to go against have beaten the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, maybe in the last week. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Dallas Cowboys because, for want of a better way of putting it, I don't think the Cowboys are all that. Like, I was going to say this season, but I just mean in general. We are dealing with what is always going to be the most dangerous of animals. A cornered animal, an animal backed into a corner, is the most dangerous. And when you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, you put them on the back foot and they are dangerous. So, for that reason, a team that needs to realistically win every game from now until the end of the season, I guess I'm going for the Kansas City Chiefs.
So, just to clarify, for the side bet this week, Mr. Cook has the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee, the Denver Broncos to beat the Commanders in Washington, the Seahawks to beat the Vikings in Seattle, and the Chiefs to beat the Cowboys in Dallas, Arlington. I have the Los Angeles Chargers to beat the Raiders in LA, the New England Patriots to beat the Giants in New England, the San Francisco 49ers to beat the Browns in Cleveland, and the Rams to beat the Panthers in Carolina. So I've gone for 2 home and 2 road teams. Andy has 3 road teams and 1 home team. That just leaves us to go through our bankers and outsiders. It was my honours for first selection this week. So after our disappointment of not winning in week 12, I felt that I would start us off hot. And with the bankers, I have taken the Miami Dolphins at 3-1 on to beat the New Orleans Saints. And my outsider pick At 7-4 is the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. Andy, his banker is the 1-4 or 4-1 on Denver Broncos to beat the Washington Commanders. And his outsider is a 3-1 shot of the Tennessee Titans to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Divisional matchup, strange things can happen. That pound that we have staked will return us £18.33 should those results come in. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is week 13 predicted. We will come back to it next week to see how we got on with those predictions and see if we sat on any cash. Now, obviously, because it's Thanksgiving, we would normally we would end the podcast here. But as it's Thanksgiving week, we're going to have a very quick break. And then we're going to come back to you with our flavour of what we think we're going to do food-wise, what we're going to do drinks-wise, what we're going to do celebration-wise. So don't get comfortable. Do get comfortable. Settle in. We're going to dip away, but then we'll be right back with our Thanksgiving spread just to tide you over and finish you off for the week. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Just like that, the break is over. We're back. So, like we said, to finish off this week, because it's Thanksgiving, because it's a super special time of the year, we'll go through a little bit of what we're expecting to eat, to drink, to do, I suppose. So I'll send it straight over to you, Mr. Cook. Have you got any particular feasting items planned in for this year's festivities, or?
So I use Thanksgiving as a Christmas tester. So there's a lot of things that I do the same, like every year. Like when it's Christmas, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to make the Yorkshire puddings like this. I'm going to make the mashed potato like this. I'm going to make the, whatever, the roasties like this. The last thing you want to do is bring in something new on the day, Christmas Day. You do not bring in something new to potentially ruin your Christmas dinner. And as it's an unofficial holiday, we here at Cook Towers like to have a little play around. Go to the internet, look for the odd video here or there, say, that looks worthy of a try. For example, this evening alone, I saw the best roast potato recipe. And I was like, I think we all know the best roast potato. It's, made in the oven, finished in the air fryer. But obviously there are things you can dabble with. This one wanted to add all sorts of stuff. At the end of the process, I was like, oof, really, really playing with the formula there. They did look delightful, though. I risked a method on Christmas Day once, and honestly, it couldn't have gone any better because it actually worked, which for me it was only later in the process I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Why would I even think about trying something new on the day? I should have tested this multiple times by this point. So yeah, Thanksgiving's a bit of a, let's try this or let's try that or let's mix it up here. But then you want to try and get a little bit of something in. In the past, we've chosen that as our time here to get the old pumpkin pie going. Leanne's been really into the pumpkin soup of late. Whether that makes an appearance as a starter, we don't know. We shall see. Honestly, it was delightful. A little spicy. A bit spicy in that there. pumpkin soup. So yeah, it's a lot of trial and error for the meal, but ultimately it's a dress rehearsal Christmas Day, basically. So a lot of like more the stuff you'd expect to see on your Christmas dinner, just making tweaks here and there. Now I know that you go all out. I've heard nothing but rumours and legends about the cornbread / corn muffin. And at one point, I'm sure there was a mention of yams, which, let's face it, we here in the UK have literally no idea what yams are. We don't know. We don't know what they are. What could they possibly be? We know Americans love them. They go crazy for them. But what they are, mystery.
So, yams is a confusing one for me because depending on which like recipe you look up and stuff like that, to all intents and purposes, a yam is just basically a sweet potato.
Yeah.
Where it comes in is how it's sort of like prepared, how it's like cooked and stuff like that. And I think candied yams is the one that everyone's obviously seen the thing.
Yeah.
Like seen the majority of the pictures of. And I think it literally just translates as you basically get your sweet potatoes in a dish and then just top them with a shed load of marshmallows and then whack it in the oven and let it melt away and get all gloopy and yeah, you go from there. So I haven't tried that, but I do remember the first time we were doing Thanksgiving at a friend's parents' house. I'd found a recipe for both mini cornbread muffins and like a Jack Daniel's whiskey glaze yams. Well, it was yams. It was just basically sweet potato, but it was very nice. It was very, very nice. So nice that I couldn't be asked to do it again. So, and this is over 10 years ago now, and I don't seem to have the recipe anymore. So,
unfortunately for me, as a non-drinker, this is the time of year when it's a difficult time because you get that. Because I always, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year, they're just holidays that beg for alcohol. They're so, the two things go so hand in hand. Brandy on your Christmas pudding and all that sort of stuff, and so it's just everywhere. So yeah, any sort of like, oh, there's alcohol in this glaze. I'm like, if the alcohol burns off, I can technically still have that.
Correct.
So yeah, there's a lot of that. Not a lot of that going on.
Anytime alcohol gets added to food, the majority of the time it will burn off in the cooking process.
Yeah.
So you should be all good. But yes, for this year, I'm just keeping it very simple because unfortunately for this year, for the first time, I haven't taken the day off work.
Well,
so
I was going to mention
throughout the day.
I was going to mention that we had an offline conversation which featured you saying something about being at work, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a new development, Mr. Williams, to work on the Thanksgiving."
It is.
Yeah.
So I'm having to temper my expectations this year, and I will just be providing a simple cornbread, which I'm hoping I should be able to knock out on my dinner hour, which would give it enough time to cool, to then take to the venue that I need to be at later on in the evening. Probably won't make the kickoff of the first game.
No.
I'll probably be somewhere into the second, potentially if not third quarter by the time I'll be able to dabble into the festivity.
So we had a situation where I was desperate to take the day off over the last 2 or 3 years, I've kind of accumulated like one holiday day a year, and those have sort of built up. So I've got this tiny little pocket of, I think it's about 3 days where I could just take a random day off that's not budgeted for child-related things. So I was absolutely desperate to take Thanksgiving off, and I had this big plan for it. The thing that stopped me, the two things that stopped me, is one, it's an office day, and two, it's a Thursday, which means that I'd still have to go back to work on the Friday. So I was like, I don't think I can do it just for those reasons. That's how bad it's got. So I was like, because I'll tell you why. I think I've already mentioned it to you. I'm planning to take the stats mistress for an early Christmas present trip around the Christmas market, where she can fill her boots with food, drink, and other things, gifts, I would say. So I was like, well, let's do it all on that day. Let's do Thanksgiving by starting the day early, going hitting the Christmas market, doing, all of these things, ticking all these things off. Then home, start preparing the meal, get the games on, and just coast through. But yes, the days off, although it would have been nice, unfortunately, wasn't meant to be. So yes, I will also be missing the start of the first game because of the same reason. I will still be at work when it kicks off. Well, technically I won't, but I'll be in transit, I believe. At this time of year, in transit is, your guess is as good as mine. It could be 20 minutes. It could be an hour and 20 minets. It's just anybody's guess. So yeah, as soon as I get in, the game will be going on, etc., etc. Let's talk about beverages. If you are going elsewhere, will that affect said drinking?
So normally I like to, well, in years gone past, I like to try and keep it on brand and try and get in some American-based beverages of choice. That's proving more and more difficult as the years go by, with obviously the advocacy of my drinks of choice moving away from the American lager-based products more into a craft beer substance of sorts. Now, obviously, there is an option to buy a variety of American-based craft beers.
Yep.
There is always that option. What is more likely to happen, however, is that I will just raid the cupboard for whatever stuff I have in stock, and that will be my beers that I will drink for said occasion. If not, there's always the option that I can always put in a little cheeky order to be delivered to me by our friends at the House of Trembling Madness, as they do guarantee same-day delivery within the York area.
Big shout out
if ordered before 2 p.m, I believe.
Big shout out to the House of Trembling Madness. I am also in a position at this moment in time where my stash is hitting the alarm status. I need to restock the fridge at some point this week, which I believe will put me in the danger zone. And because of it dropping into the danger zone, I have found myself earlier today on said website going, "Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah." So 66 beers later, I was like, that's probably good for the foreseeable. However, I will have to wait to place that order. So I'm finishing up the stock, and the stock, I like to keep some really nice things for the back end of the stock. So I've got some really nice beers to finish with. So those will be getting absolutely cracked open.
Very nice. And a large number, dare I say, to potentially get you through to the new year.
The idea behind that order is that I always place a similar sort of order around this time, and the idea is to get me through like December, because I like to get the Christmas non-alcoholic beers. I like to give those a try. I saw one today and I was like, oh my days, get in my body. And then there's a couple that I try and get every year as long as they're available. And then the idea is to get me through all of December, Christmas, New Year, January, February, because obviously you're in that danger zone of, oh my word, how much money did I actually spend at Christmas? Let's batten down hatches and kind of just ride it out for the first few months of the year. So the idea is that order will carry me for months, basically. But yeah, it's always good to try and get some really nice beers over Christmas. And again, big shout out to Trembling, because their non-alcoholic selection is fantastic, and they do keep a good sort of rotation. So you've got like your standard ones, and a lot of those standard ones are up there are some of my favourites. I panic that one day they won't be there, and I'll be like, but their ever-changing stock of just fantastic beers is always a welcome sight when you take yourself over to the website. You're like, ooh, what is this? Oh my God, it sounds amazing. I will order 12 of them. It's not very nice if you've got 11 left.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is our little discussion about what we're hoping to be eating and drinking for the Thanksgiving festivities, and that brings us to an end of week 13. The prediction show for this particular week. As always, thank you to my co-host for joining me this week to go through the details of week 13 and look back at week 12 in the National Football League. Join us again next week, where we will break down the results from week 13 and we'll look ahead to week 14. Obviously, for those of you who celebrate and who live overseas, we wish you a very, very lovely and happy Thanksgiving. If this is your first time stumbling across the podcast, then obviously welcome on in. The water's lovely. It's not just American football that we cover here on the podcast network. Myself and a couple of other fellas do a weekly football podcast where we discuss the goings on of Middlesbrough, Nottingham Forest, and Hull City, the teams that we each respectively support. So if that floats your boat, get in amongst that. We also have a monthly wrestling roundup show where we discuss the goings on within the world of the WWE. We look forward to each premium live event that's upcoming, and a Thanksgiving tradition is the Survivor Series pay-per-view, or premium live event, sorry, as it's known nowadays. That will be coming down the pike for you within the next couple of days. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you're a Formula One petrol head, we also have a Formula One podcast, the Straight to the Apex podcast, where the lads go through the details of all the races for the upcoming season, for the current season. I understand we're approaching the end of the season at a rapid pace, so only a few things to be ironed out there. And then the jewel in the crown, as it were, is the Darkest Timeline podcast, the one that Mr. Cook just does of his own volition. No guests required. It's just the thoughts and feelings coming out of that noodle right there. So there you have it. Plenty for you to be going on with on the CookieCast podcast network. But like I said, join us next week where we will go through week 13's results and we'll look ahead to week 14. But until then, it's tatty bye from me, it's tatty bye from him, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
So there you go. What do you think of that? Another one done. Another one gone. Did you spot the continuity? Do you know what happened and how it happened? Drop us a line. Jump over to the website, click the email button, and let us know what you think we did. Also, before you leave us, click a button. Pick one. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And, just join in. Be a part of things. Join the crew. If you want to do something else, come back next week and check out another one. Until then, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode of Cookie Cast, please like, share and subscribe.